Henning Wehn, he knows best. Henning Wehn, he knows best. Henning Wehn, he knows best. Henning Wehn, he knows best.
Yeah, thank you very much. As Otto Kuhnle, he is the funniest man from Düsseldorf and the Fatherland's foremost Yodelmeister. And more from Herr Kuhnle later. But today we're discussing the most important aspect of British everyday life, shopping. Yeah, consumerism. And shopping, just like life in Britain in general, is all about knowing your place. And even after 10 years in the UK, I sometimes don't know my place, as I recently found out when I tried to move house to Zone 1, central London, until I realized that Zone 1 accommodation is exclusively for two groups of people, millionaires and people on benefits. And as I'm neither, I had to stay put on the outskirts of Tooting, in it. Governor. Even Zone 1 rent prices are still quite moderate compared to Zone 1 cinema prices. Recently went to Leicester Square to watch a movie. 16 quid. Prices like that have not been seen since the end of hyperinflation in 1920s Germany. And we all know what that ultimately led to. Even less available affordable property in central London. Show stealer. No, I initially wanted to call this episode Town Planning, but Paul, the producer, considered the title Town Planning too dull, as well as too controversial, seeing Germany's impact on the design of British town centres some 70 years ago. And I must admit I can understand his reservations, as I vividly remember my first trip to Coventry. Now, walking the town, I felt a considerable amount of guilt for the German air raids that destroyed what must have been a beautiful city full of Tudor buildings. And I felt really awkward, particularly when I saw right in the town centre, right next to the two cathedrals, a beautiful mock Tudor building. It's massive. And there I was, marvelling at the size of the beautiful building right in the town centre, thinking, how did we miss that? Now we can all laugh about it now, can't we? Well, let's get down to business and let's describe the British High Street. The worst element of every high street are the chain charity shops. Evil enterprises get their stock for nothing. From gullible people thinking they're doing a good deed when donating to those so-called charity shops. Seeing they get the stock and even staff for free, charity shops can sell their tech for prices an independent shop can't compete with, driving them out of business, making them lose their existence, and that way cynically getting them as new customers. Let's have a look in the Oxfam bookshop. They've always got a great selection of Lonely Planets from 20 years ago. The one about Greece that has all the prizes in drachma will be particularly useful again. Charity shops are the worst con on the British High Street. Tell you what, I rather set fire to my old belongings. Yeah, in total disregard for my carbon footprint and rising oil prices, I rather set them on fire than give them to a charity shop. And well, if this sounds harsh, judging by your non-approving reaction, which it might, I must admit I have massive difficulties understanding the British concept of charity. You know those emails. Hello, sorry for not having been in touch for years, and now only with this round robin. Anyway, I'll be doing a fun thing I always wanted to do. Please give generously. I know someone who went on a 100k fell walk in the Yorkshire Dales, and he was genuinely angry with me for not donating any money for him doing that. Told him that where I'm from, him going for a walk, it's not an activity that should set me back. And it's always friends that are asking. And there's no shortage of people I would happily pay a few quid to if I would have never ever have to see them ever again. But it's always friends that'll ask for support for their 6 months trip to Rio de Janeiro. Sunbathing on the Copacabana and watching football at the Maracanã for charity. I'm driving Route 66 on the Harley for charity. I'm skiing to the South Pole for charity. I'm going whoring in Bangkok for charity. Yeah, timing.
I was too excited.
Yeah. But there is no escaping the fact life in Britain is all about supporting good causes, and everyone's chipping in. And the former cricketer Ian Botham, he showed his commitment to charity by walking from Land's End to John O'Groats, Eddie Izzard by running 50 marathons in 50 days, and David Williams by swimming across the Channel and down the Thames for comic relief, or to be more precise, his own ego. Well, they're all very British achievements, aren't they? Walking very far, running a lot, swimming very far, all very British achievements, because bugger all is being produced. Other than excitement. One day I hope someone comes up to me and says, Henning, will you sponsor me? I'm going to rebuild British industry. For charity. The other indicator of a city's prosperity is the degree of dilapidation of the local shopping centre. Now, everybody remembers the great opening. The local MP was there. Someone who came fourth on X Factor 3 years previously cut the ribbon. For the kids, there was a bouncy castle and face painting. And for the adults, there was a Bucks Fizz tribute band. And we're talking one of the proudest days of any town's history. But it never lasts. Old shopping centres are cheaply built, and with no one taking ownership, they'll become an eyesore before long and will be standing largely empty in 10 years' time. But not to worry, it's Birmingham, UK's second city, has proven time and again, simply built a new shopping centre. And then another one, and another one. Welcome to the new Bull Ring! We have several horrendous derelict shopping centres in near proximity, but we pretend we don't. And open this new one, they'll be horrendous in 10 years' time. In an advanced society, say Germany, the high street is for buying goods with money earned at one's workplace, and everyone understands that consumption and prosperity are the results of high productivity. In the UK, all that hard work is taken out of the equation. The whole country believes that if only there is enough being spent on the high street, economic success is guaranteed. The words production, manufacturing or productivity are never even mentioned. It's all reminiscent of Baron von Münchhausen's tale, in which he pulled himself out the moor by his own hair. Difference that in Germany is considered a laughing stock. In the UK would be a contender to become Chancellor of Exchequer. No sooner had England, I'm sure you remember that, no sooner had England overcome Croatia to qualify for the last World Cup, and papers were full of stories that the high street would benefit from a nationwide 1.2 billion spending spree on booze and big TVs. As far as I understand, overindulgence and frittering away money one doesn't have, deriving from a false sense of entitlement, have been the main contributing factors behind the recession in the first place. But what do I know? Luckily, there is never a shortage of good news. England's made it to the European Championships. Great news for the high street, shifting loads of beer and barbecues. For an outsider, it's hard to understand how a months-long bender with zero productivity, followed by a 2-year hangover, There is a way to kickstart an economy. The royal wedding is on. Great news for the high street. Shifting loads of plastic flowers and Union Jacks. Economic policies can even be replaced by something as mundane as meteorological forecasts. Phew, what a scorcher. Great news for the high street. Shifting loads of shorts and sunglasses. It's pissing it down. Great news for the high street. Shifting loads of umbrellas. There'll be a shitstorm. Great news for the high street. Shifting loads of cagoules and bleach. And the only storm not good for the high street is the debt storm. And even that's good news for payday loan shops. The only places in British society where genuine ambition is still being rewarded are those all-you-can-physically-eat Chinese restaurants. Earlier this year I went to one in Lincoln, and I'm happy to report that perseverance, dedication and competitive spirit are indeed alive and kicking in Britain 2012. Whilst visits to a carvery suffer from the logistical nightmare of having to balance 2 kilos of meat, veg and potatoes on the one single plate you're allowed, there is no need for any sort of self-control at the Chinese restaurant with its unlimited supply of plates. The whole restaurant came together and there was a great camaraderie amongst Lincolnshire's most committed eaters. Every single one of whom was determined to cause maximum damage to the buffet by relentlessly blitzing it time and again, bravely taking helping after helping of unidentifiable matter covered in gloopy MRSA sauce. It was an unrivaled triumph of willpower over taste and restraint. And as such, not too different from a traditional family Christmas. Mind you, there is one city that manages to pull off a version of the Münchhausen trick ad infinitum: Blackpool. They managed to implement a totally self-sufficient economic model up there. It's based on everyone buying booze off each other at different times of the day. And the only people in Blackpool with a job outside the booze cycle are the donkeys on Pleasure Beach. And they too look hungover. But to give us more of an insight of what makes the Brits do what they do in shops, welcome to the stage, home-style consultant and star of changing rooms, DIY SOS and house gift. Welcome to the stage, Laurence Llewelyn-Bowen. Is it fair then to say that Brits really do like to spend money and really do like shopping? That's a fair assumption, isn't it?
No, it's absolutely true. I think it is much more complicated. There is an innate feeling with Brits that we like to celebrate the fact that we can buy things. You're absolutely right. We are buying an enormous amount of stuff that doesn't really impact our lives, affect our lives, make our lives better, and it is then being completely regurgitated into charity shops. I mean, you haven't touched on, I don't know whether you've met this fabulous phenomenon yet, of what we call a boot fair. Have you been to a boot fair?
Yes.
Who goes booting? I've got a feeling that there is a finite amount of tat that just keeps getting recycled. That you go to a boot fair and buy it because it's £1, and then you take it home, and then you have your own boot fair the next week to sell it on again. And it becomes a bit like a kind of a contagion. It's a bit like a sexually transmitted disease. There's one object, this kind of, Murano ashtray, that has no use or point, just gets transmitted from person to person like herpes. You Germans should beware. I know it's all looking lovely for you at the moment, but never forget that I had my bottom pinched by Angela Merkel once. And I feel as if I'm a lot closer to your economic truth as a result. Something was passed on, and it wasn't a Murano ashtray.
So, and on what occasion, that is now the obvious question, on what occasion did that bum feeling...
To be fair, it was more a cupping. Nonetheless, it was in a bar in Hamburg. Maybe it was a case of mistaken identity on her account. I knew it was her. I could tell by the trouser suit.
Cozy will be jealous no end. Talking about shopping, I mean, where do you shop? Can we find you down the TK Maxx?
I have people to do that for me. In fact, the TK Maxx phenomena is fascinating because you're compelled to buy this shiny designer stuff because of how much it costs. But I completely agree with you about how difficult it is shopping for clothes, which is why I've now gone back to the straightforward British thing, which is to have a tailor who knows your size, who makes your clothes, and therefore there's no trying on. The process of shopping can be very intimidating, which is why I think the point of shopping is to never do it sober. Which, you go to a decent shop and they give you a glass of champagne before you start, and that's fine. You're on rails then. You're on rails. You'll buy anything then. Yeah,
I only know them places where they stand outside with a bottle of cider.
No, you need to up your game. And this is one of the things...
I know.
I love you for the fact that you are persevering with knitwear with a zip. It's so improbable. My one advice is to keep moving, because otherwise the V&A will list you.
Well, but the good thing about this zip, I mean, this will not make for great radio, I suppose, but the great thing is, see, I can regulate my body temperature extremely precisely. I think, it's a bit tightish.
Yeah.
Just do it up 3 and then...
I love the fact you're counting the teeth of the zip. I think you should have little numbers embroidered on it, so that you say, oh gosh, 30 degrees, down 2 teeth. I mean, it must be difficult for you being German.
And all the other problems of a human existence.
Your lovely companion there, he's rocking the German look with the little hat and the rather strange fold-back lapels. And the big squeezy bra thing makes music. I think that one of the problems that you Germans obviously have is trying to embrace the 21st century. Move on. Move on from the shaving brush in your hat. And as you say, the leather trousers.
Yeah.
I have to say, that's like being clapped by a firing squad.
Thank you very much. Give it up for Laurence.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. So, Otto, have you ever been clothes shopping here in the UK?
Herr Wehn, why should I? I got, as we do in Düsseldorf, I've got my one pair of leather trousers, and they are inherited from my grandfather. Well, he first gave them to my father, and he gave them to me. And anyway, they are
What
still...
color are they?
Now they are brown.
What do you wear with them?
Shoes. Always shoes. I like shoes and a hat. Then the rest you can, but it's not a must.
Well, on that lovely image, just discussed with Laurence, wanting independent shops and holding on to a local identity. That is all good and well. But let's have a look at the one service industry that is independently run. B&Bs. Bed and breakfast. And they're predominantly horrific. And believe you me, as every touring performer, salesperson and lady of the night will tell you, there is a lot of false advertising when it comes to accommodation. I mean, talk about staycation all you like, but it's not going to happen as long as royal in hotel names is mostly a euphemism for hasn't seen a lick of paint or a new mattress since Victorian times. And B&Bs, they also stopped serving breakfast at 6 a.m. to make sure no one will ever take them up on the offer. The only thing worse than getting up at 6 a.m. to find out they stopped serving breakfast is finding out breakfast is still being served. And there's one place they'll never be accused of too much authenticity and local identity, and that are retail parks on the outskirts of towns. A lot of practical reasons, such as free parking outside the front door and all goods in one place, do speak for shopping there. especially if you're a big family or short of time. But what confuses me is when people spend their leisure time voluntarily in those complexes. For example, there is a weekly comedy gig at the cinema in a retail park near Bristol. They're absolutely fascinated by the event and always try to understand the audience's decision-making process. They must go, I tell you what, darling, I'll show you a good time tonight. Get in the car. No, we're not going into the historic town centre tonight. Let's drive to the retail park instead. And we'll be having dinner at Nando's. Before going to watch some live comedy in the cinema next door. In a screening room that by its very nature is designed to absorb sound, and as such is totally unsuitable for any form of live performance that requires building an atmosphere. But blandness and not using all one's senses is not a recent phenomenon, but one with a proud British tradition. I mean, I remember a glorious day on the Gower Peninsula near Swansea. Sun was out, tide coming in, sandy beach and steep cliffs. Amazing. 20 cars parked on top of the cliff and people sitting in their cars, not getting out. Not getting out for fresh air, but remain seated in the car, drinking tea from a flask. The generations of British people have spent family trips driving up to beauty spots and then driving home again. And it's not only old people, also young ones. And there were even more than 2 people sitting in one car. I mean, what experience will the ones on the rear seats have had? People always claim to wish for authenticity. But how much authenticity do people really want? After 10 years in the UK, I've become the go-to guy for German events and pseudo-German events in the UK. My favourite run of events every autumn is German beer fest in Scotland. They're rough. I mean, those beer fests, they're a binge drinking session and a half. And they obviously need some on-stage entertainment because otherwise they couldn't get it past the licensing laws. And the on-stage entertainment is always provided by an Oompa band. And the most popular Oompa band in the UK, they're called Die Herr Flicks. After that Allo Allo character. And Die Herr Flicks, they're Terry, Lee and Andy. They're 3 Geordies. And they haven't got a word of German between them. And they're absolutely incredible. I mean, they have been the stars on the British Oompa circuit. And yes, it does exist. And they have been the stars on the British Oompa circuit for the last 3 decades, yet they still haven't got a single word of German between them. It's incredible. They get the tune spot on, but the words they just make up. It's the equivalent of putting on a Chinese night and go, na 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 na. And I wonder how comfortable British people would be attending that sort of event. These days, probably in a time of cheap airfares, you might be asking yourselves, well, if the organisers put in that much effort organising an authentic German beer do, why don't they go the extra mile and get an actual Oompa band over from Germany? Tell you why they don't do that. Because a German Oompa band could never ever do the job as well as the Herr Flicks. Because a German Oompa band simply wouldn't know the most popular tunes at German beer fests in the United Kingdom. Because they wouldn't know the theme tune to Dad's Army. If I get married, I'll definitely book the Herr Flicks. Mainly confuse the hell out of the Germans that come over. They look all right, but what are they doing? What is it? Herr Kuhnle,
you have to go to a restaurant from time to time. That's the reason I was writing a song about going out in a restaurant, and this song is called Good Food. Yady, yodi, lady, hi-ho. Life is good when you have good food, have good food, have good food. But life is sad when the food is bad, life is sad. Here is my advice for when the food is not nice. I tell you now, I'm never wrong. You will be grateful for this song. When a slab of meat is your dish, looks and smells like rotting fish, order something else instead. If that is off, take bread. But of course, the bread is mold infested and the chef deserves to be arrested. If the salad looks like toxic waste, ask for it to be replaced. Everybody, yodi, yodi, lady, hi-ho. Life is good when you have good food. Life is good. If you're in a fancy restaurant and everything seems brilliant, you expect to dine like a king, but then the microwave goes ping. Breakfast is the best way to ease yourself into the day. Pleasant, slow and very gentle, then you're having continental. But when your breakfast makes you sick and you need a bucket very quick, your stomach's full anguish, then it's called the full English. Yadi, yadi, yodi, hi-ho. Life is good when you have good food. Life is good. If you're fed up with bad food every day and you just want to run away, if you're not happy with what we're eating, then you know you are in Great Britain. Yadi, yodi, lady, hi-ho. Life is good when you have good food. Life is good.
Yum, yum, yum. We have learned quite a bit today. If you don't like your shopping centre, don't worry, there'll be another one shortly. German beer fest are the dog's bollocks. Oh, well, it's not bad innings for 26 minutes of radio entertainment. Thanks so much for listening, and tune in next week when I teach you telekinesis. That was Henning Knows Best, hosted by Henning Wehn, that's me, and featured Laurence Llewelyn-Bowen, the wunderbare Otto Kuhnle, and was written by the cast and Kent Valentine and Liam Malone. It was produced by Paul Russell and was an open mic production for BBC Radio 2.
Henning Wehn, he knows best. 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 Henning Wehn, he knows best.
Ladies and gentlemen, herzlich willkommen. Welcome to Henning Knows Best. Give it up for Otto Kuhnle. Well, I've been kindly asked to investigate aspects of British society, and this week we'll explore Britain's relationship to sport. British sport, just like German humour, is no laughing matter. As such, not an obvious subject to tackle for what is meant to be a funny programme. Did you ever wonder why there aren't more comics talking about sport on stage? It's extremely difficult, that's why. Got to be interesting for punters that are familiar with traditional British sports, such as bull baiting. But it also has to be enjoyable for people who don't know a leg before from their elbow. It also mustn't turn into one big exercise of Brit bashing. So as you can see, these are unrealistically high expectations that are bound to end in crushing disappointment, which ironically is a fitting summary of British professionals. Well, British sport is very integral to me being in the UK, because I did arrive on these shores 10 years ago to work in the marketing department of third division side Wycombe Wanderers FC. And if that wasn't the best crash course of Britain, then I don't know what is. Well, one of the first people I met was 80-year-old Jim, one of the club's many volunteers. Lovely chap who sold tickets for the club lottery. And he was wearing a jumper emblazoned with the Royal Air Force logo, and he immediately asked me where in Germany I was from. Yeah, you are anticipating what... So I said, I'm from Hagen, and then him replying very matter-of-fact, ooh, I know Hagen, but only from the air. Well, on that bombshell, let's talk about the upcoming Olympic Games in London, London 2012. Are we all excited? Yeah, I think we can all safely agree London 2012, that'll be a right old shambles. It will be a national embarrassment and a half. At least unlike at the last London Olympics in 1948, this time Germany is invited. But let bygones be bygones. Londoners will be great hosts and create a great atmosphere and make the athletes of even the most outlandish sport feel welcome. So I'm not saying you celebrate weirdness, but you certainly support variety. Well, talking as a British taxpayer and London council taxpayer, the one issue I'm already not best pleased with is the whole budget issue. Because when Britain bid for the Games, it was meant to cost 2.4 billion. Now they're up to 9.3 billion. How can they get it that wrong? Did they go, ooh, we would really like to host them Olympic Games. What do we need for that? Well, to host them Olympic Games, we'll need one marker pen to write down the winners' names. And we'll need one big whiteboard to write the names on. And we'll need one massive box of PG tips to see us through. And I tell you what, as a special treat for all the athletes, they'll break a world record. They'll all get an after 8. And based on that, Britain's given the Games, and then one bright spark went, oh no, we've forgotten something. We also need stadiums. Is there any bookkeeping trick we can do? Yeah, let me do it. I used to work for KPMG. Come on. Give me that marker pen. Come on, here. Marker pen, 169. Whiteboard, 4.99. PG tips, 5.99. After 8, 3.99. Miscellaneous, 7 billion. And in the end, it was a 2-horse race, wasn't it, the Games? Either they would go to Paris or to London. And don't get me wrong, I really dislike the frogs. And I still much rather the Games had been given to Paris and every single British taxpayer had been given a return ticket on the train to Paris and back and 5 nice nights in a hotel over there and a complimentary gold medal. And all that would have been a lot cheaper and a lot less embarrassing than actually trying to host the Games. Winning Olympic medals is hard, isn't it? And that's why Britain very shrewdly invented the Commonwealth Games. Yeah, the Commonwealth Games where British athletes compete against the finest postmen, plumbers and bus drivers from Montserrat, Dominica and the Virgin Islands. It's like the first round of the FA Cup all the way through. And when hosting international events, citizens are always promised a legacy of grassroots facilities. Well, let's see if London 2012 will deliver. I mean, the UK could certainly do with some more swimming pools, Olympic-sized, open to everyone and a pleasure to be in. Of course, we all know what it's like at the moment, don't we? I mean, go to any public swimming pool and everyone in there will be there on doctor's orders. Yeah, with the twigs hanging out their mouth. Yeah, then in a shallow end there will be some sex cases. That will be doing 2 lengths at most before some spitting and pissing in the water. I mean, that is your run-of-the-mill British pool experience, isn't it? And last year I went to a swimming pool in Australia, and everyone in there was looking really healthy and knew how to swim really elegantly and fast and for hours. I was by far the most out-of-shape person in the pool, if not the whole local area. Tell you what, I was probably the most out-of-shape person in the whole of Australia. I became so self-conscious. So I looked down myself in my Speedos. I've got pot belly. I was sunburned yet pale. Don't know how I done it, And then I've got bloated cheeks, indicative of a camera membership card. I felt so uncomfortable in myself that ultimately I unfurled my Union Jack and gave a rendition of Rule Britannia. Because I thought I'd rather give Britain a bad name than Germany. There is one thing British councils have a lot better organised than their Australian counterparts. And that are the shops at the exit. Yeah, because in Australia there was a beautiful person trying to sell me freshly squeezed fruit juice, making me feel even more inadequate. And that's understood by the British councils. And they make sure that British swimming pool exit shops only sell Twix, fresh out the pool, and that they're all staffed by some freakish-looking creature. That no matter how little exercise you just got done, you'll be able to leave on the positive notion of... Well, at least I look healthier than you do. That's not a Twix. Well, in Britain is home to some of the world's strangest sports. Box snorkeling, cheese rolling, haggis hurling. Yeah, but none of them needs as much explaining as the strange beast that is the so-called gentleman's sport. It's not a specific sport, it's a state of mind. As soon as the Brits realise they aren't good enough to win, which tends to be shortly after the sport in question has been taken up by a second nation, they refer to any given sport as gentleman's sport, a ready-made excuse to laugh off underachievement. These gentlemen's sports, this whole nobody is a loser approach, is plain wrong. I mean, not only in sport, but life in general. Because whatever you start out in life, be it golf, binge drinking or street fighting, in the beginning you must get outclassed and reduced to tears, for that is what makes you strive for revenge. You quit your day job, cancel all social activities and focus on practicing. And then after years of single-minded determination, you reduce others to tears. Or fail and kill yourself. That's life. Then sport can bring people together, but equally can divide communities, particularly in Glasgow. And with all its sectarian problems. And bigotry isn't as easy as it looks. No, it really isn't, because I, for one, can't make my mind up which old firm side to support. I mean, I love the current Pope. Certainly his nationality. So I should support Celtic, the Catholic side. But I'm a born Protestant, so I should support Rangers. But being a Protestant in the UK means being loyal to the Queen of England, so I should support Celtic. Then again, the Queen of England is German, so I should support Rangers. It's just too complicated. I sometimes wish I would have been born into some East Glasgow council estate, with my dad, naively assuming I would know him, with my dad telling me who to hate. Obviously, can't give this lecture on sport without mentioning the footballing rivalry between England and Germany. What can I say? England, Germany. It's always a big game, particularly for England. Germany usually have got a lot bigger games to play after. To be honest, I don't enjoy football as much as I used to, because Nationalmannschaft, the German national team, we're rubbish these days. Honestly, we have not won a major tournament for 16 years. And we haven't even been to a final of one for almost 45 months. All those days of hurt. Well, and now to give us a real insight into the world of English sports, I'm now joined by former player, ex-manager of the England football team, football pundit and the current chairman of Watford FC, Graham Taylor. So far, a fair assessment of British sports?
Very accurate, I would think. Very accurate. But there is this relationship between England and Germany on the football field. Now, relationship is a strange word to use, but you're quite right what you say. It is a special game. My particular start as the England manager, my first 12 games without defeat, my 13th game against the unified Germany, we lost.
Well, what can I say? I'm sorry.
I mean, the one thing you've got to accept when you're a football manager is everybody can do your job better than you. You've just got to accept it. And they never pick a side. Their side never plays, but they're still better than you, if you're losing.
Yeah, well, that is... I mean, the thing is, as a stand-up comedian, at least, you tend to have the audience on your side at first.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
Yeah. Very great. Yeah, play it, did you, Otto? Talking about the upcoming Olympic Games, are you one of the lucky ones? Have you got tickets for anything?
No, I haven't got tickets because, you know, when London talk about how to get to the Olympic Games and you realise that all the roads are now painted red just for the officials, you think, how the hell am I going to get there? So I have no tickets. I'll end up being a television viewer. I'm not going to go down. I didn't apply for any tickets. Might surprise people, but...
No?
No.
You've got a big telly?
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, well, I've got a neighbour across the road, and even if you look on the other side of the road, that telly in their living room is bigger than the telly in my own living room. Yeah, and would you say overall Britain is a strong sporting nation?
It is, in terms of, you know, what they believe, without, you know, you've not brought it in, but it is very, very disappointing. In 1966... I was in my room. I'd been married 15 months, and I'm watching the game, and Jeff Hurst comes along. You know, the old saying, they think it's all over. It is now. Jeff Hurst has put the ball into the top corner of the net. It's 4-2. Yours sincerely. Jump up like that, and would you believe we'd just bought a chandelier, and I broke the chandelier, and my wife has never, ever forgiven. She still talks about it, and it all came down. And I mentioned it to Jeff Hurst once, and he's not offered me any money either.
Yeah, well, everybody else keeps talking about that day.
Well, that's all I can talk about.
The wife might as well, mightn't she? So, if you were the sports minister, what would you change? Or if you were the chairman of the FA?
Well, I'd get rid of foreign managers. I don't believe in them. I'm sorry for the England side. England, if they want to remain... this is nothing against either Sven Eriksson or Fabio. It's nothing against them, but I don't believe that England should be employing a foreign manager. And I would prefer, I don't mean to be nasty at all, but I would prefer the England manager to be English.
Yeah. Yeah, I find it... I mean, it's a different story, let's say, if Germany were to take up cricket. So you would get someone in from England or Australia because they know best, or at least they know something about the sport. So that will be, and then if it's not your core sport, you can get someone from abroad. But if it's your core sport, right, you should have one of your own people.
That's what I think. Yeah. That's what I think.
Are you available again?
Well, I suppose, you know, keep it between us.
Yeah.
But I've been very fortunate. I don't care what anybody says at all. To be a professional footballer and to attain a level of fitness that professional sportsmen do, fantastic. To play football and then manage, I've never had a proper job in my life, have I? Fantastic.
Long may that continue. Give it up for Graham Taylor.
The summary is, football is about winning. It was a long talk for that result.
Yeah. 2 world wars. I hear that wherever I go. 2 world wars and 1 World Cup. Duda. And 2 World Wars and 1 World Cup judo. I mean, I follow football quite closely. I don't remember America ever win the World Cup. That works even better in Scotland. I mean, believe it or not, I still get heckled with shouts of 5-1. 5-1. I mean, let me explain to the ladies what that is all about. 5-1 is a fluke scoreline from a football game only 11 years ago, when England indeed beat Germany 5-1 and even Heskey scored. It was a qualifier for World Cup 2002, which in the end both teams did qualify for. And then in the actual tournament, Germany went on to play the final. Admittedly, we lost, but we went on to play the final, whilst England got sent packing weeks before that. And that's why I genuinely don't understand the pride about that 5-1. Because that is a bit like me walking up to a Russian fella and go, "Oi, mate, Stalingrad, 1941. Duda. I wouldn't do that. Simply because I know the Russian fella would just turn around and go, "Stalingrad, 1942. Dudaski." Jeff Hurst. Now, let's go back even further. Jeff Hurst could invent a cure against cancer, and no one would care. Yeah, Jeff, your Nobel Prize-deserving breakthrough in medical science is all good and well, but tell us again, what was it like 1966, scoring those 2 goals? Now, celebrating past successes has long been not only a problem of British sport, but wider society. The British military still gloats about their minor supporting role in World War II. And as a result, they have not won anything since, other than a small conflict in 1981 against third-rate Argentina, who were without Maradona. At home, or was it away? And finally the answer to that question was what the war was all about. I tell you what, had Lord Nelson survived the Battle of Trafalgar, he would have spent the last few decades of his existence in alehouses round Soho being coaxed into time and again repeating how he hoofed the cannonballs up front until one of them finally hit the back of the Spaniard's onion bag. To this day, Nelson's an inspiration to youngsters, such as the young Ellen MacArthur, who saved all her school dinner money to buy her first boat. Which begs the question what sort of school she went to. How much can a school reasonably charge for turkey twizzlers? I mean, had I saved up all my dinner money, I could have best have afforded one of them rubber swimming rings. I suspect the boat was bought for her by her parents as a punishment. Whenever she was naughty, she wasn't sent to her room, but out to sea. Her parents were accused of cruelty, but they claimed the Atlantic was her bedroom. Whimsical humour! It doesn't suit my nationality, personality, or taste, but I thought I'd give it a good old go. And talking of whimsical, last October, The Guardian ran a piece asking if angling is a racist sport. They really did. The question I would like to have answered first is if angling is a sport. As far as I can tell, the only ones exercising are the fish. I don't understand the appeal of angling. I mean, I do like sitting down, but I'm not keen on all those rods, reels and tackles. Bring a power generator. Electrify the water and let the voltage do the work for you. Fish will get a shock and you can simply collect as many as you need. Efficiency. Now, 10 years since I came over to work for Wycombe Wanderers and realised I'm becoming more and more British. I realised that particularly last year when I did a recording for QI, that Stephen Fry programme, one of the topics was injustice in sport, or miscarriage of justice in sport, 1966, obviously. There have been other incidents of cheating, and the one I look back on, I remembered in 2000. Do you remember that? 2000 at the Paralympics. Do you remember the Spanish basketball team? Yeah, that entered the mentally disabled basketball tournament. Yeah, and thrashed everyone like no one's business. Yeah, won the gold medal by a country mile, but then later on were found out not to be disabled. And at the time, I was still living in Germany, and I was thinking, well, it's a bunch of Spaniards. And they entered a mentally disabled basketball tournament without being disabled. That way, outdoing genuinely disabled people, or they fully deserve Paralympic medals. And that's so low and shows such massive mental deficiencies that they were entitled to be in the competition. And that's how I thought about it back then. But now, after 10 years in Britain, I thought about it afresh. And I thought, well, it's a bunch of Spaniards. They were just having a laugh. Come on, they were just having a laugh. Have you got no sense of humour? Bloody rule Nazis, they were just having a laugh. Come on. And that's when I realised that now, after 10 years in Britain, I do rate having a laugh over logic. Well, Kuhnle.
My father, he's a doctor still, and so I got a very, very critical eye on sport because I always saw those injured people coming in our house. I wrote a song, a very critical song about sport, about the negative aspect, because you only talked about the positive aspect, and the people can also join in at a certain point. Too much sport makes you sick, makes your joints swollen and thick. The benefit of sport is misunderstood, with all that damage done for good. Who's always running as fast as he can will soon be walking like an old man. Arthritis, pain, and tears of frustration is the final destination. Falling from the back of the horse is painful, yes, of course. Racing downhill on your skis, crash and break both your knees. Running, swimming, basketball, a German phrase that says it all. Sport is Mord, means sport will kill, so please, no sport, ignore the thrill. Sport is Mord, means sport will kill, please, no sport, ignore the thrill. Boxing leads to mental issues. Tennis elbow can give you the blues. The list of risks in rugby is too long for just one little song. But the worst that can happen to you, and this is important and this is true, it's unacceptable and there is no excuse. Never, ever lose. One more time, everybody. Never, ever lose. Repeat. Never, ever lose. In Germany, failure is not expected. Only winning is accepted. Now you truly understand how we do sport in the Fatherland. Now you truly understand how we do sport in the Fatherland.
We have learned so much about Britain over the last 6 weeks. The people of Blighty like a laugh. There would be no political system if it wasn't for hobnobs. The Queen is middle class, and I learned how to pronounce ad infinitum. Oh no, wrong again. Well, one mustn't grumble, and there's always a next series for 2 pints of lager and a packet of crisps anyway. Thanks again so much for listening, and goodbye. That was Henning Knows Best, hosted by Henning Wehn, that's me, and featured Graham Taylor und der wunderbare Otto Kuhnle. It was written by the cast and Ken Valentine and Liam Malone. It was produced by Paul Russell and was an open mic production for BBC Radio 2.
Henning Wehn, he knows best. Henning Wehn,